how's it going, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you guys tuning in after all this time. I'm sorry about that. I wish I had the time and energy to put into making these videos, but I'm a father of 3, all under the age of 4, so my time and energy is kind of lacking these days, and that's why I haven't posted more often. But I'm in a spot right now where I'm doing some work to get ready for the 2026 New York Muskie Show. The last 2 months I have done a ton of legwork, all of the woodworking and carving to get my blanks ready for paint. Now they're all ready for building and painting, and I've just started painting, so that's why I started filming. I did put on the base coats on these baits behind me. I have 20 baits. I have 10.5 inch straight body knocker baits, and I have 10.5 inch jointed baits. There's going to be 10 patterns. I'm going to paint one of each in each pattern. So I'm only going to be filming the straight bodies, but I'm also painting the jointeds along with each one that you're going to be seeing. We're going to be putting details and finishing touches on these baits. I already have the base coats ready to go, so I have 10 patterns already picked out, and we're just going to be finishing those up today. So let me show you a little bit what I'm doing. Alright, so starting on the bottom, I have a natural perch here. It's got a little bit of green and yellow towards the belly, black back. That's going to stay a white belly. I have a goldie here. That's going to be a 3D scale gold and black back, yellow belly. And I'm sorry if you've seen some of these patterns before. A lot of what I do is repetitive, and I don't want my videos to be repetitive, but here we are. Orange belly perch. We have a natural walleye. That's another 3D scale bait. This is going to be an orange belly shiner, black scales, orange belly. I have a frog. I did a frog pattern not too long ago, maybe a couple months ago, and it turned out to be super easy to do, and it also looked really cool. So that's something I'm really interested in, is something that's easy and cool. So you're going to be seeing a frog pattern. This bait, actually all the next 4 baits, these top 4 is something I haven't put on video yet, so that's kind of cool. This one here has glow pigment in the top coat, so this is going to be a glow-in-the-dark bait. And I took my Cricut machine and I printed out some, there's a pattern there of fish bones. You can't really make that out, but that's going to have a fishbone pattern on the side, and then I'm going to paint the whole thing black and then peel the pattern off and hopefully reveal a glow-in-the-dark fish skeleton. That's going to be pretty cool. This bait is going to be just like a natural, there's going to be a foil, scales on the side, just green, natural, something like a crappie or a smallmouth. That's pretty cool. I haven't put this on camera yet. This bait is the first time I ever tried using a foil leaf product, and I've never used that technique before, so I figured I would give it a try. I really regret not filming this when I did it, but it's done, so here we are. I did some foil adhesive. I painted foil on it. Really nothing to it. 2-step process, so you didn't really miss much. And then I gave it a little bit of a blue greenish back with a little bit of this like fuchsia plum on the side. So it's starting to look a little bit like a steelhead. We'll put a couple more details on this to make it look a little bit nicer. And then the last pattern is going to be a pink belly night shiner. You've seen this one on my videos before. 3D scale, silver, black, and a little bit of interference blue in those scales, and a pink belly. So let's get started on the first bait, and we'll just start getting some paint laid down. Alright, first up we're going to do the natural perch with the white belly and some 3D scales. Just to get this prepped, all I did was take some acrylic paint, and I started with yellow and then green and darker green, and then ultimately came back with black. Really, the purpose of doing all of those layers is just to get a little bit of texturing. I don't know if you guys can see the texture on the camera. That's going to be tough. There's a little bit of texture here from the dried acrylic paint, and that really adds to the 3D effect of the scales. Gives it a little bit of depth. I'm going to get this netted up and start putting some colors down. And another thing that I think that helps is once your net starts to get a little bit of paint buildup on it. I like my netting to have a little bit of paint buildup on it. The first set of 3D scales that I do with a brand new mesh doesn't really turn out as good. There's like a happy medium to have a little bit of paint buildup on the net. I think it also helps that it blocks, the net itself blocks all of the paint, so there's no spaces, you know, these little pinholes between each scale. Those get filled up and then they block all of the paint, and the mesh does its job a little bit better. These are the 3 colors that I like to use for my natural perch scale. I have an iridescent gold, I have a green gold, and I have a sap green hue. And I might even add a little bit of black to this to make it an even darker green. First step, gold. I just want to coat all that black, and I really want to be careful around that transition line to keep that belly nice and white. Alright, gold is done, so now I'll come back with a little bit of green gold and make that scale green. I'll start to work on the darkening of each scale. You kind of start really bright, you darken it up all the way to really dark green, and then you finish the scale by coming back with the highlight and finishing off bright. But just immediately that green over the gold just looks so natural. Look how natural of a green that is. Still being really careful not to get any overspray onto the white. Right there. Alright, a little something darker in the gun. I'm definitely going to spill. With this technique, sometimes you're going to want to tilt your gun a little bit. I have a tendency to overfill my cup and it spills out onto my bait and I ruin everything. One step ahead this time. Added a little bit of black to the green to make it even darker. And we'll finish it off with some more gold, and we're going to come back and highlight all the tips of the scales that we've been darkening up. Alright, that's good. Let's see how that looks. Oh, that looks pretty good. Alright, now we're just going to do some bars with transparent black, and this one's going to be done. We'll move on to the next one. Pretty good. Working on the goldie now, and just basically covered all of that black with gold scale. And then I'm going to come in with some black and make these 3D. And a little more gold. Finish off goldie with a little bit of black detail. Looks good. Next bait. Alright, I added some gold scale to the perch, so I'm just going to do the black detail and orange belly, and then these will be done. Try and space these out before I commit to the lines. Alright, black details are done, and now we're going to do an orange belly. Alright, now I'm on to the natural walleye, and here are the three colors I use for the 3D walleye scales. This is gold, burnt umber by Wicked Colors, and then sepia. Walleye looks pretty good. Alright, looks good so far. A little transparent black bars. Alright, next bait. Alright, this pattern is the exact same pattern I painted in my last video, so let's skip this one. Alright, next up we got this frog. What I'm going to do is take some masking fluid and just paint spots all over the bait, and then I'll come back in with some shading. We'll peel that masking fluid off, and then we'll add the black dots inside of the spots that the masking fluid make. Very easy pattern to do. It's a lot of fun to paint, and I think it turns out really cool. I think it's a cool frog pattern. Kind of stay a little bigger towards the top and then little ones down below. It's kind of how I like it. Just a little guy right there. Alright, looks good. Now we're going to let that completely dry, and I'm actually going to do this on the jointed bait, but then we're going to let this dry, and then we're going to come back with some shading. Hello?
Hey, you want Johnny C's?
Yes, please. Alright, I got a little dark green in the cup, and pretty much all I'm going to do is just randomly try to draw in between the circles, not completely filling it in, just enough to shade in between the circles. And we're just drawing lines and just letting that overspray shade the rest. And that'll be enough for that masking fluid to really stand out from the spaces in between. And you don't really need to be good with an airbrush to do this. You just, as long as you can draw like a straight line, you know, you kind of want it to be random. You want it to not be perfect. So definitely a technique that lends itself to somebody who is inexperienced with an airbrush. Now, before I peel the masking tape off, I'm gonna just flick a little paint onto it and give this a cool messy effect. Start light, do a couple of test flicks. Gonna go way up top here. Alright, we're throwing some paint. Alright, it's ready to peel, so basically you just use your fingers and just peel off the masking fluid. And it just balls up and falls off. Now I'm going to come back with some acrylic black with a Q-tip, and I'm just going to fill in each of these holes, and I'm going to try to keep enough green on the edges of that black, probably about like a 1/16 of an inch, maybe less, maybe a 32nd, and just try to match the shape of each of those shapes with the acrylic. Alright, that's all of them. Looks good. Oops. On to the next bait. Alright, the glow bait, this is actually my second attempt on this, and I don't know if you can see this, but I had to wipe this bait completely clean because I wasn't totally happy with the edges that I got on my stencil. So this is attempt number 2, and hopefully we're going to get it right this time. Last time, basically, the paint peeled off with the stencil. I peeled the stencil off, and it took some paint with it. You know, it just wasn't clean edges, and I thought I could do better. But we'll see. Maybe I can't, and we'll find out. So I cut these out of my Cricut machine, and I think it's a pretty cool stencil. Essentially, some fish bones. So we're going to do our very best to line this up. Alright, and just very carefully, I'm trying to get a good seal all the way around. I cut a little relief slot there so I can get this to lay down nice. There's a little bottom jaw. That's kind of cool. Alright, I'm doing a test peel on the jointed version, and it's peeling pretty nice. That's coming off with some sharp edges, clean edges. That's what I like to see right there. Clean. That's cool. Alright. Sick. Good for me. So sick. That's so cool. Can't wait to see that glow in the dark. Alright, for the next pattern, we're going to need my foil machine. I built this foil machine a handful of years ago. I don't remember exactly how long ago, but I went to Harbor Freight and got a cheap arbor press and some aluminum blocks, some high-temp silicone adhesive, and that's pretty much it, with an Inkbird controller that's hooked up to some heating elements that are buried in the back of these aluminum blocks, a couple of vent holes, and it was ready to go. So I just plugged in my machine, waiting for it to get up to 400 degrees. I have it set at 400. I find that that's kind of the temperature that most of my foils like to release at, with 30 seconds of press time. So this is the color we're going to be doing. I just did kind of like a natural base, green, yellow, a little bit of silver, white belly, a little bit of overspray there, but we're going to touch this bait up after the foil. I have this really cool foil that I like to use for these natural patterns, and it's just a bunch of scales with negative space. You can see right through that, and then when you press them, scales stay on the bait and the backing releases, and it's really cool seeing the negative space in between those scales, and it just really goes well on a base pattern like this. Alright, we've hit 400 degrees. Make sure we are squared up. Make sure we got good pressure. Alright, the alignment looks really good. Now we just got to get this foil to stick up here on this nose. Very nice. There we go. That looks really good. Pretty clean release. Pretty high up on the shoulders, which I like. Nice clean on the belly. And man, that's cool. Alright, we'll do the other side. Very nice. Alright, I'm just going to flick a little bit of black paint down the back where the foil didn't quite reach. Alright, we're just going to darken this back up a little bit with some green. There we go. That looks nice. We're gonna finish up these rainbows. What I think I'm gonna do is take this mesh and do some white scales to kind of blend this hard line a little bit. Then maybe I'll do some black dots and call it a day on this one. Alright, time to add some black dots. And I'm gonna just use a Q-tip. Yeah, I think that'll do. Alright, I'm going to dry this and then maybe darken this back up just a touch, and I think we're good. Alright, I think I'm going to call an audible on this last one. Since I didn't get the foil leaf and the metal leaf adhesive on camera that I did on the steel head, I thought that was a pretty cool technique that it would be fun to put on camera. So I'm going to switch this to a gold Rapala, and I'm going to do gold metal leaf foil. It's a pretty simple process. You just paint this metal adhesive on the bait, and wherever it goes, the leaf sticks. Alright, I'm going to let that sit for like 10-15 minutes, let that really tack up, and then I'll start spreading foil on there. And this is only my second time ever doing this, so I don't really, I don't know the ins and outs of this technique, but we're just going to go for it. We're just shoving it on there, just letting all that stick all over it. Kind of flatten it out, and whatever sloughs off just gets stuck somewhere else. And eventually enough excess falls off, and all you're left with is a nice smooth surface of foil. At least that's how it's turned out so far, and it's looking that way. Really glad I made this audible. Alright, I got it meshed up, and I'm just going to do some gold scales. Pretty nice. And then I'm going to come back with a transparent black and just darken that back up. And we are done painting. Alright, this batch is done and it looks great. I'm super happy about how every single one of these patterns turned out. It was really fun to try some new things, put it on camera, and I'm super happy with these results. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I hope you guys got something out of it. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys. I promise to try to post more often. And if you want to buy these baits, you can come see me at the Chautauqua Harbor Hotel in January 31st and February 1st at the New York Muskie Expo. So hope to see you there. Thanks for watching. Take care.